Welcome to My Hometown, the program that explores clubs, organizations, businesses, and issues across Nassau and Suffolk counties and sheds light on the different towns that are making a difference.
A great day to you, and welcome to another edition of My Hometown. I'm your host, Bill Horan, along with Nassau Community College student Joe Ritter. Our special guest today is Charles Weinraub, founder and director of acquisitions at the Handsome Homebuyer. Charles is a 37-year-old entrepreneur who has forged his own path from the start. Highly motivated and passionate about what he does, Charles buys properties specifically distressed, inherited, or those about to be foreclosed, then completely refurbishes them and puts them up for sale or rent. He started the Handsome Homebuyer 4 years ago. To date, he has turned around 80 properties here on Long Island and anticipates turning around 100 this year. Charles is one of those people willing to share his secrets for success in a competitive field and gladly advise homeowners who find themselves in a situation whereby they have a distressed property or home about to be foreclosed. Charles, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Great to be here.
Now, tell us about your past a little bit. Before getting into real estate, what did you do before that?
So I graduated actually Nassau Community right here, and then
all right, let's hear it for Nassau Community College.
And then I ended up opening a body shop franchise called Mako over in Hempstead, which I ran for 10 years. And during that period of time, when I was 27, I read the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which we were talking about off the air by Robert Kiyosaki, and I'm like, that's it. I'm done huffing paint fumes. I'm going to be a professional investor. So I spent the next 4 years getting educated with different mentors, and the rest is history.
And that's kind of the perfect starting story when you say you read a book, it motivated you, then you got some mentors, and we always promote that on other shows, and you really got into the real estate field, and it sounds like something you're happy about and doing well at.
I love it. I'll never do anything ever again. This is really, really my calling.
Joe, pay close attention today.
Right.
Yeah.
You're a young guy like our guest here. You can do this, too.
Yeah, I know. I got it. I'm not quite as handsome, but I can get there.
I'm not going to get into that. Did you have a question?
Yeah, so you said you went to Nassau Community College. So where were you raised? Were you raised around here, or?
Born in Brooklyn, raised in Wantua. Now I'm in Long Beach. Been in Long Beach for the last 10 years. You should live in Long Beach, man. Long Beach is a good time.
Yeah? I mean, I've heard good things, but I don't know. I like where I'm at now.
Just being born in Brooklyn, right away you get half the country on your side.
There you go.
As we talk to people, I'll say, we're here on Long Island. Oh, I was raised in Brooklyn. Where do you live now? Albuquerque, New Mexico, someplace in California. They all seem to start out in Brooklyn.
I didn't get the accent, though, which I'm a little upset about. I wish I would have gotten the accent.
Yeah, but if you're from Queens, it's totally different.
The accent?
Now, Charles, did you have any specific schooling or training that got you into real estate?
So what I did is I read the book, and I'm like, all right, where do I start? So at this point, it was right after the market had just crashed. It was probably like, early 2000s. No, I'm sorry. No.
2007, 8?
2007, 2009. There we go. I'm thinking
so at the crash of the market.
So I read the book right after the crash. And then, so I went into NYU and I took a one-day intensive on foreclosures. I figured, that's it. That's like the kind of common thing that everybody thinks is, you buy properties from banks, they just give them away really cheap, which actually isn't the case at all. It's kind of the opposite. I rarely ever buy bank-owned properties because there's really not any money to be made there most of the time, ironically. So I took this course, and the teacher said, listen, go out and join the local real estate groups, or RIAs as they're called, Real Estate Investment Associations. So I went to one. They usually meet once a month. There's a number of them on Long Island. And that's where I met my first mentor, who's still a mentor to me today. His name is Carl Chavone. He runs the RIA out of Levittown. Amazing man, like a second father to me, really, really changed my life. So I trained with him for about 4 years diligently, 5 to 7 days a week on top of the Mako. Going out, doing field research, training with him on the phone, reading every book there was, really, grinding it out and working hard. Until I got to the point where I'm like, okay, I'm going to do a deal. And at that point, I didn't have any money. Like, I didn't have the money to do it. So that's the problem.
Money. Okay.
Plus, it's like, at that point, I grew up in Wantua, which is a very, it's an upper middle class, very affluent place. But at the same time, the concept of you're going to buy a house for some odd hundreds of thousands of dollars, put this into it, and then sell it and make money is like kind of, outside of most people's box.
Exactly.
I was in the body shop business. My dad wanted me to do that. And I wanted to do something different. So I got to the point where I kind of like begged, borrowed, did whatever I had to do to get the money for the first deal. And it literally went exactly the way I thought it was going to. And at that moment, you have like that aha moment because you have this vision and you see it so clearly, but nobody else does. But you kind of need the validation. And at that moment, it happened. And that was it.
And that's a tough market in that 2007, 2010 span in there. We forget how difficult that was. Things are better today, but back then, there were a lot of clouds in the sky.
It was a scary time. That's what people were telling me, like, you can't do it. You can't do it.
You were probably too young to know you couldn't do it, and you did it.
I hope that I'm always too young to not know that I can't do it.
There you go. Perfect.
That's awesome. So you talked about that there was a book specifically that kind of gave you that like kick in the butt to get you moving. But was there anything that drew you, what drew you to specifically home buying and doing this kind of a thing?
So in the book, they really talk about two major kind of investments, stock market and real estate. So I started looking into both of them. The stock market, I feel it's gambling. Me personally, I don't feel comfortable with it. So I gravitated towards real estate. And I'm sorry, what was the second part of that?
Yeah, just two specifically real estate. So you said the two parts of the book,
and what's the goal?
Stock.
I'm sorry, I digress. So at that point, my long-term goal is to have a REIT. You guys know what a REIT is?
Sure.
Real estate investment
trust. Yeah.
So I said to myself, all right, how am I going to get there? I have to prove to people that I can make them money. Now, with the money that I have and the knowledge that I have, what can I do? So that's why I started in flipping houses, because it was with the available capital that I had and the people that I knew, it was the quickest way for me to start generating returns for people.
Now, Charles, you mentioned that certain people were influential to you and your growth in this field, either as a mentor, people you read about, books that were published. Can you take us behind the scenes a little bit? Because we hear that a lot, and that's a very typical and a very good way, obviously, to start. First of all, you have someone guiding you. You learn from other people's mistakes. So before you step in that puddle, they say, watch where you're going.
Yeah.
And if they're a good mentor, that's invaluable. And we've had several of them on other shows. But kind of take us through what the mentor and the main people in your life did for you and the lessons you learned.
I think it's kind of twofold. So I had a number of different business mentors in my life. I think success is probably like 65% having the guts to do it and then 35% preparation. So I always tell people when they say, listen, they watch these shows on TV, I want to flip houses, I want to do real estate. I'm like, you need to get the education. It's very, very important. Like when you have the guts and the drive and the education, it's a lethal combination. So I sought out different people who had the experience, and I befriended them or I paid them. I always recommend people to call and say, listen, you should train with this gentleman. It's always funny to me. They'll go out and spend $300,000 to try and renovate and sell a house, but they won't spend $5,000 in a year on their education.
Isn't that funny?
Which is, it always blows my mind. So I say, always get a good mentor, a number of different mentors. Always talk to everybody that's out there about what you do and what they do, because we all have to help each other. Outside from that, I think something that people really overlook is your internal support system. I'm very, very lucky to my parents. My family are unbelievably supportive. My mother's always tells me the story about she's wheeling me through the supermarket when I was drooling on myself at 3 months old, telling me I'm a prince and I can do anything in the world and I'm amazing.
And you listened. It all sunk in.
I did. It all sunk in. Sometimes for the good, sometimes for the bad.
Joe looks kind of princely to me. He looks like a prince.
Is it the drooling part or what part do I...
We'll talk about that later, Joe. I'm sorry I interrupted you, Joe.
No, not at all. So... that's really, I've had a great overall support system, whether it be friends, family, my mentors. And that's my thing, basically positivity. I only try to surround myself with people that are very positive. And I go off of feeling most of the time. And if we're all in that same train, and it works.
And that was a big change for you, because you said you worked in, I think it was auto body or makeup.
Auto body before.
And that's a structure. It's almost like books in the library. Not that it's easy, but there's a structure. But your company, you wake up in the morning, you could go out and look at 3 houses, you could sell, you could buy, you could have to fix them, or you could have a total disaster, frozen pipes or termites or whatever.
Houses that smell like cat pee. That's
those are good houses.
That's pretty much an everyday occurrence. Yes, it's funny that you say that, because it's kind of a little bit of both. I love what I do because every day is something different and new. At the same time, when I was in the Mako, I learned a lot about standard operating procedure. So there's a great book, The E-Myth, or The E-Myth Revisited.
Yes,
I'm sure you've heard of it.
We had the author on the show.
Nice. I feel like I'm in good company. That's an amazing book. I mean, I learned a ton from that. So basically, what it says, every business you should treat as a franchise. It's called franchise model, right? So you should standardize the process of every business. So that's what I do. The goal being that you can replace yourself doing jobs that you shouldn't be doing, so you can be out and be an entrepreneur, right?
These are all great philosophies. I mean, Joe, this sounds like a commercial for the Secrets of Success.
It really does.
We didn't.
Did you plan this?
We did not prompt it at all. I only met Charles a few minutes before the show, but this sounds like we're going to hire him to do some commercials for us. So.
I just wish I had a nicer voice like you guys.
No, it's
no, you're much better than me.
But what you're doing, and I think this is so important to someone out there, you said 65% is the guts, the internal. You had to have the push. Now, you had some good, we got to give your mom and dad credit because they kept you positive.
Thanks, Mom.
It's
Thanks,
not
Dad.
like, yes, and it's good you do that. That's only fair. We got to thank our parents.
She's still doing my laundry. I'm still stealing food from her to this day.
Okay, there's an honest man who admits to that. So his mother will take good care of him.
Never move out of your house. Stay there as long as you can.
And what's her best recipe? Tell us.
Oh, God. I can't
When you
do
come
that.
over, what does she give you for dinner?
It's the
See, that's
everything.
that's like a crime. You can't pick one specific thing.
Oh, my mother is a little 5-foot-tall Sicilian lady who converted to Judaism, so I get all of it. I get the Italian food. I get the Jewish food. It's amazing.
Lasagna and pastrami. You got everything. Okay.
Everything.
See, it's incredible. I wish I had something like that. But how did you come up with the Handsome Homebuyer, like that name?
So, I have a friend, a very good friend of mine, who is the self-proclaimed world's most handsome man. He actually has a T-shirt that says "World's Most Handsome Man." He recently had a kid, and the kid has "World's Most Handsome Baby" T-shirt. He's actually a very good-looking guy, very nice guy.
I said he's either handsome or he's the ugliest guy in creation.
Right?
So,
It goes either one way or the other. He looks like
Christian.
Christian Bale in American Psycho.
Okay.
Very good-looking guy. So when I'm thinking about, all right, what am I going to call this thing? What am I going to call this thing? He always just calls me handsome. I think he calls everybody handsome. So I'm like, that's it. Handsome Homebuyer. I'm like, I'm not that good looking, so I can get away with it without it being obnoxious, and people are going to remember it. The funny thing is, women get it. They think it's like funny, tongue-in-cheek. Guys get angry. Like, I drive around this little smart car that's wrapped. You saw it.
Yeah,
It's
I've
wrapped
seen it.
outside with this ridiculous Handsome Homebuyer logo. And I'll have it parked, and a guy will drive by me and yell at me, "You're not handsome, you're a soft 6 at best," and keep going. They get angry. I don't know.
But they actually pay attention to you, and it does draw attention. So
all publicity is good publicity.
yeah. So actually, that's another thing we have to mark down. That I really think that's cute. That it does draw their attention, which is what you want. They want you to see them, and even though they may argue the point with you, if they want to buy or sell a house,
they'll remember it.
They're going to come back to you.
Now all the people I deal with, they put me in their phone as handsome, or they just call me handsome. So it works.
See, it's perfect. I wish I had a bigger notebook to write all this down.
You can replay it later on. You get all the tips, and we'll take Charles to lunch or something.
We'll have to get that
Won't match his mother's cooking, but
Nice.
we'll do this. Now, Charles, can you explain to our audience?
Sure.
You know, people are riding around the car, they're listening, so we're not watching on TV. What is it you actually do? Can you take us through the process?
So essentially what I do is I go out and I have different relationships that bring me distressed properties of all kinds. People call me, let's say a classic example, somebody has a death in the family and they inherit a home that's, old, it's dated from the 1960s. They call me up and they'll say, we're looking to sell this house. So I go over, I look at the house, I do an analysis of the area, I make them an offer. They accept the offer, I purchase the house. At that point, we fully gut renovate everything. Basically, we take an old dated house, change the layouts, everything is new. Windows, roof, siding, electrical. There's nothing that is original in this house other than the original framing. And we give it kind of a look for what the modern buyer wants. And then we ultimately resell it or we rent it.
Gotcha. I'm laughing at this joke because he made the comment, something from the 1960s that's dated.
No disrespect.
I went to high school in the 1960s, so we know what Charles thinks of me. So from here on in, you're going to carry the interview. But
okay, I got
we'll have to talk about that. But so now, how long does that process take? You find a house.
Yeah.
Someone says, yeah, I want to sell it. And why do they sell it, by the way, to you rather than to their neighbor or the young couple down the block?
There's a number of different reasons. The houses that I buy are typically in bad condition. They need,
and that's probably a nice description, bad condition.
Yes, that's the PC version.
Politically correct.
Yes,
okay, we got
exactly. So a lot of times they're not mortgageable. So the heating systems aren't working, or they don't have appliances, or have electrical problems. So banks won't lend on them. So it has to be what's known as a cash deal. There has to be no bank involved. It could be that. A lot of times people just need to move quickly. A lot of times, they're behind on their mortgage and they have a little bit of equity in the house and it has to move quickly. Or sometimes people just they want fast. They don't want to deal with realtors, people coming in their houses.
I just want to interrupt you so our radio audience understands. When you say no bank involved, you mean you don't have to go for a mortgage.
Yes.
You can go up to them and we'll use a fictional number, $100,000, and pay them $100,000, $500,000, $600,000, $1 million, whatever the fair price that you two agree to.
Yes.
They don't have to wait that 60 or 90 days and say, maybe maybe you'll get the mortgage, maybe you won't.
Exactly.
Okay.
And I could do it as fast or as slow as they want. So if they said, listen, I need out of here in 3 days, they have their money in 3 days. Another big thing is CO violations. So like
CO is certificate of occupancy, is that correct? Okay.
So if you have a house and, let's say back in the 60s, which wasn't that long ago,
He's trying to save himself
there you go.
now, Joe.
I redeem myself. They built an extension